This is a drill press. A drill press is basically a drill chuck like you would have on a hand drill mounted to a vertical motor so that it can drill straight, accurate holes into a piece of wood sitting on the drill press bed. Drill presses have a lot of adjustments, but really their only job is to drill a straight hole into your wood. So the first adjustment that we want to do is setting the bit and adjusting the speed. So if you're using different types of bits, you want to make sure that you're adjusting the speed based on the size of your bit. A bigger bit will need a slower speed and a smaller bit can have a faster speed. Over here you'll find a speed chart. So you can take a look and find the column with the type of material you're cutting through, whether it's softwood, hardwood, acrylic, brass, aluminum, or steel, as well as the size of the bit and the type of bit, and it'll tell you roughly how fast you want your drill press to be. So if I'm using a 1/2 inch brad point bit in softwood, I want to make sure that my rotation is about 1800 rotations per minute. To set your bit into the chuck, you can twist this sort of gears of the chuck to open up these jaws in the bottom, and then your bit can slide in, and then twisting the gears the opposite way tightens those jaws onto the shank of the bit. We want to make sure that the bit is secure and that it's running straight up and down. If it's got a little bit of an angle in it, we're obviously not going to get a straight hole. So once we've tightened it a little bit by hand, we want to tighten that securely. So there is this key hanging on a string on the side of the piece, on the side of the drill press, which inserts into one of these holes on the side of the chuck and tightens the bit, tightens the chuck around the bit. Once we've done that, we can turn the drill press on briefly just to check that it's running straight and to adjust the speed. To adjust the speed, we're going to use this knob here on the side. What the knob does is it adjusts these belts inside the drill press that control the speed based on different diameters of wheel. So there's a digital readout here that says how many rotations per minute that bit is making. By pulling the lever up, the bit spins faster, and by pulling it down, it spins slower. So this is a smaller bit, so we can set it to go a little bit faster. The next thing I'm going to do is set the height and depth of the cut. So the drill press table moves up and down in order to bring your material closer or further away from the bit. There's a release on the left side and then a crank on the right side that brings the table up and down. And we want to make sure that we set the material to be just below the tip of the bit so that we can easily take that material in and out without scratching against the bottom of the bit, but it's also not so far away that we have to crank this down really far in order to cut our hole. We also want to use a scrap piece of plywood underneath the material if you're cutting all the way through. This just protects this bed from getting damaged over time, and it'll also give you a cleaner cut if there's something supporting the piece of material that you're cutting. You can also move this fence forward and back in order to adjust how far away your hole is from the bit. Just loosen the tracks on the side, on the back, and move that forward and back. The biggest risk to using a drill press is the piece of material that you're using. If it's not properly supported, then it can actually catch on the blade and start spinning around really fast. So we want to make sure we have some sort of fence or clamp or something holding that material in place and preventing it from spinning. So this fence works great, but if you have a bigger piece of material that you need to remove the fence in order to fit, you can always just clamp it down to the table. You can also build a jig that holds a piece in place. For example, if it's really small, we never want to be holding that small piece by hand because it can get pulled from our hands, and then our fingers are close to the spinning bit. Once we've set the fence, we have our stop block, we've set the bit and the speed. The last thing to set is the depth of cut. So there's this gauge on the side here that has two spinning washers or nuts that lock together, and depending on the height that these nuts are located, it prevents the chuck from going any lower than that stop. So right now we have it set to not quite fully cut all the way through. This can be great for cutting dowel holes, but if you do want to cut all the way through, we need to make sure that those nuts are set higher than the material. So you spin them both at the same time, and then they tighten together to lock down. So now we're going to be cutting all the way through the material and just a little bit past in order to go partly into our scrap, but not all the way through. It's also a good idea to clamp this scrap piece down so it can't move. You can use these T-track clamps, which slide in on the end here and just tighten down. So to make your cut, all you have to do is turn the drill press on and then use these levers to pull it down and then release it all the way back up. If you're doing a really deep cut, it's sometimes a good idea to do what's called peck drilling, and that means we're going to go part way into the cut, maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. Then we're going to bring the bit up to allow any chips to clear, and then we'll go all the way through in a second or a third pass. So with this material, I'm going to go down in probably 2 or 3 passes. If you're doing many holes and you have the same fence adjustment, you can just slide this piece down, position it manually, and hold it in place while you make your cut. You don't have to stop the bit every time unless you need to make more adjustments. And there we have our hole.